Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you're a college student sitting in an intro to business course right now, or honestly just someone gearing up to make that massive leap from the classroom into the real world boardroom, you are in the exact right place. I'm so incredibly excited to guide you through this material today. We are going to be unpacking the core concepts of how you actually navigate the transition from being a student to becoming a future manager. We're going to look really closely at how managers plan, how they lead, and most importantly, how they inspire people to actually hit those big organizational goals. Okay, I want you to hear this quote from legendary management consultant Peter F. Drucker. He said, "Management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things." As you get ready to enter the business world, I really want you to let that sink in. Think deeply about the difference between those two concepts. It's the difference between simply executing a list of tasks flawlessly and having the actual wisdom to set the right vision in the first place. You absolutely need both to succeed, but man, they require entirely different mindsets. So, consider this your syllabus for today. We're going to arm you with some incredibly practical frameworks. We'll be covering the manager's toolkit, management versus leadership, choosing a leadership style, the psychology of motivation, and finally, building effective teams. Let's just dive right into part one, the manager's toolkit. To really build a foundation here, we have to break down what a manager actually does all day. How do they turn abstract goals into tangible results? Well, there's this continuous four-function cycle of management, and it totally doesn't matter if you're running a local coffee shop or a massive Fortune 500 company. You are constantly cycling through these exact four steps. First step is planning. You've got to set the goals and map out how to get there. What are we even trying to do, right? Second is organizing. That's allocating your people, your money, and your resources to execute that plan. Third is leading, directing, motivating, and talking to your team to keep everyone aligned with the mission. And finally, controlling, which basically means measuring your performance against your goals and hitting the brakes or turning the wheel when things drift off course. Now, while those four functions apply everywhere, management obviously scales a bit differently depending on where you sit in the company. As recent grads, you're probably going to start right at the bottom of this table at the first-line management level. So here, as a supervisor or a team lead, you're dealing with daily operations, planning on a weekly or maybe monthly basis. Above that is middle management, so think division heads who take the big strategy and turn it into tactical 1 to 3 year plans. And then at the very top, you have top management, your CEOs, your CFOs, and they're looking like 3 to 10 years into the future to set the overall strategic direction for the whole company. All right, moving on to section 2, management versus leadership. So there is this massive myth in the modern workplace where people just use the words manager and leader interchangeably, but they are absolutely not the same thing. Management is all about systems, execution, planning, and budgets. It relies on formal authority to maintain stability in the short term. Managers ask, okay, how and when? Leadership, on the other hand, is entirely focused on people and vision. Leaders are looking at the long term, they ask, what are we doing and why? And they rely on influence and trust to actually drive change. The reality? Organizations desperately need both. They need the steady, reliable hand of management just to keep the lights on, and the visionary change of leadership to actually grow. The absolute best professionals out there, they have both skill sets in their back pocket. Which brings us to section 3, choosing your leadership style. One of the absolute biggest mistakes young professionals make is thinking there's just one single right way to lead. In reality, the best leaders adapt to the specific room, the specific team, and the exact situation they're facing. So here are 4 major styles you're going to encounter or use in your career. First, autocratic. That's where the leader makes decisions totally unilaterally. Think of an ER doctor or a military commander. When speed matters way more than getting everyone's buy-in, this style is vital. Second is democratic or participative leadership. Super common with engineering team leads who consult the team before deciding just to build commitment. Third is laissez-faire, where the leader delegates almost entirely. This is perfect for highly skilled, say, R&D lab experts who demand autonomy. And finally, transformational leadership. This is where a leader inspires with personal charisma and vision. Think of Satya Nadella at Microsoft, right? Pushing his team totally beyond their own expectations. I want you to picture your past jobs or group projects. Which of these styles have you personally experienced? Okay, shifting gears a bit for section 4, the psychology of motivation. Because let's face it, having a great plan means literally nothing if you don't know what actually drives your people to work hard and execute it. We're getting into the human element here. A really foundational theory for this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The core idea is simple. Lower-level needs just have to be met before higher-level needs can motivate someone. You start right at the base with physiological needs, like basic wages for food and shelter.
Then comes safety, meaning job security. Then social needs, feeling a sense of belonging on your team. Above that is esteem, getting recognition and status. And finally, at the very peak is self-actualization. That's creative growth and reaching your full potential. You literally cannot motivate an employee with creative growth if they are stressing out about making rent next week, right?
Building on that is Hertzberg's two-factor theory, which reveals a genuinely surprising reality check about the workplace. Just paying people more doesn't necessarily motivate them. I know, it sounds crazy, but according to Hertzberg, things like pay, working conditions, and company policies are what he calls hygiene factors. If they're bad, people are unhappy. But if they're good, it just brings people to a baseline neutral state. It just stops them from being miserable. If you want real, genuine engagement, you have to look at true motivators. And that comes from recognition, personal growth, responsibility, and doing truly meaningful work.
Okay, I want you to think back to the absolute worst group project you've ever had. Actually, scratch that. Think about the worst group project leader you've ever had. Chances are they were operating under McGregor's Theory X. Theory X managers are super pessimistic. They basically assume workers are inherently lazy, that they avoid responsibility, and that they constantly need strict command and control supervision. And the tragedy is, this creates a total self-fulfilling prophecy where the team just checks out. On the flip side, you have Theory Y managers. They're optimistic, they assume work is a natural state for people, and that folks actively seek out responsibility when you give them meaningful goals. By assuming the best, Theory Y leaders create these incredibly empowered, highly effective teams.
And there's one more piece to the motivation puzzle, and it's a big one: fairness. Adams' equity theory states that motivation heavily depends on the perceived fairness of your input-to-reward ratio compared to the person sitting next to you. Imagine you've got this brilliant software engineer who works late every single night. One day, they find out the brand new hire who is doing the exact same role makes 20% more money. So the crucial point here is, even if that engineer was previously totally happy with their salary, that perceived inequity instantly kills their motivation. They're going to reduce their effort, mentally check out, or honestly, probably just quit. Fairness matters immensely.
And that leads us perfectly into our final section. Number 5, building effective teams.
Look, modern business is absolutely a team sport. Organizations rely on teams because collective output basically beats individual contribution every single time. But, and this is a big but, only if that team is structured correctly. Because there are major trade-offs. The benefits are amazing, right? You get diverse perspectives that catch blind spots, way faster problem-solving through collective brain power, and much higher engagement. However, unmanaged teams totally fall victim to serious pitfalls. Things like social loafing, where individuals just coast because their specific effort isn't visible, or they suffer from groupthink, where the pressure to fit in completely crushes any dissenting or innovative ideas. You also have coordination costs and just general interpersonal conflict. These exact challenges are exactly why strong leadership and structured management are completely non-negotiable in business.
So let's bring it all together. As we wrap up this explainer, here are the 5 key takeaways you're going to want to remember for your midterms and, way more importantly, for your actual careers. Number 1, management has 4 continuous functions: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Number 2, management is all about systems and stability, while leadership is about vision and change. You need both. Number 3, pay alone doesn't motivate, it just prevents unhappiness. Meaningful work is what drives true engagement. Number 4, your assumptions as a manager become reality. Treat people like they're lazy, and they will be. Empower them, and they'll shine. And number 5, diverse, accountable teams will always beat individuals, provided you manage those team pitfalls well. Before we go, I want to leave you with something to really chew on. Look inward for a second and apply these frameworks to yourself. If you became a first-line manager tomorrow, which of those leadership styles would you naturally default to? And perhaps more importantly, which style would you honestly struggle with the most? Think about that as you transition into the modern workforce. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this explainer, and I seriously can't wait to see the incredible leaders you all become.